Welcome to the second day of our online symposium celebrating Botanic Gardens past, present and future. My name is Chris Thorogood and I'm the Deputy Director and the Head of Science here at the University of Oxford Botanic Garden, Arboretum. Now, as Professor Simon Hiscock explained yesterday, this online symposium celebrates Oxford Botanic Garden's 400th anniversary, a landmark for Britain's oldest botanic garden. The symposium is a unique opportunity to hear from 22 botanic gardens, arboreta, herbaria, and other horticultural organisations from around the globe, and to find out about the work in conservation, research, horticulture, and education they do. As we heard from Bob Price, Oxford twin cities are represented at this historic symposium, and many of them, I'm pleased to say, are speaking today. Before I reflect on yesterday's talks and outline what's in store today, why does it matter and why do we care so deeply? Well, as we heard yesterday, plants are crucial to life on Earth. We simply can't exist without them, and botanic gardens are their conservators. There are 2,500 botanic gardens worldwide, and together they hold millions of specimens, representing some 30% of the world's vascular plant species. At a time of unprecedented biodiversity loss and extinction, botanic gardens have a vital role to play in conserving the world's flora, as we discovered in yesterday's talks. Yesterday, Professor Barbara Baldan, the director of Padua Botanic Garden, started the day by examining the development of the seed coat of ginkgo. Barbara shared a living atlas of beautiful imagery that had us gripped. Then Professor Alex Antonelli, Director of Science at Kew, passionately shared his mission to understand and protect biodiversity and how machine learning and AI can speed up prioritization for conservation. Later on, Professor Pete Hollingsworth, Deputy Keeper and Director of Science at Edinburgh Botanic Garden, shared with us the Darwin Tree of Life project that seeks to sequence complete genomes of all species around Britain and Ireland. And together, these talks showed how innovative technologies can be applied to conservation at a time when that's urgently needed. A particular favourite of mine, which will not surprise those of you who know me, was a deep dive into the mysterious world of Rafflesia with Professor Charles Davis of the Harvard University Herbaria. And we saw how Charles and his team's work have addressed the age-old question of how and why are these flowers gigantic, transforming our understanding of the world's largest flowers. Professor Max Huygens, Director of Bonn University Botanic Garden, grabbed our attention by challenging our very notion of classification in plants. And he went on to share insights from his own researchiacy. And like Barbara's and Charles' talks, we enjoyed stunning visuals showing surfaces and structures involved in reproductive biology. I was also pleased that I remembered to use Zoom's mute function, which we know I have a problem with, because his description of Arabidopsis had me laughing out loud. Now, on to our sessions on education, which were chaired by our own authority on the subjects, Dr. Lauren Baker, which were equally inspiring. And Dr. Jonathan Mitchley, or Dr. M, as we know him, Associate Professor in Field Botany at the University of Reading. He's truly changed the face of botany in the UK. He's a pioneer when it comes to engagement with plant sciences. And he shared his Big Botany Challenge with us and kick-started our session with a good dose of optimism. Dan Jenkins and Alex Jenkin from Gatsby Plant Science Education then built on this discussion, focusing on engaging with science teachers through their Science and Plants for Schools, or SAPS project, which is a powerful avenue to inspiring new generations of plant scientists. Dr. Suzanne Moss, Head of Education and Learning at the RHS, tackled the horticultural skills crisis. Now, Sue is a passionate communicator and ambassador, and it was inspiring to hear how she and her organisation are lobbying government to address the challenges that we all face in our sector. I really enjoyed the talk by Suzanne Hermiston, Head of Education at Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh, because it really grappled with a challenge that we all now face, i.e. how to engage and educate in the context of a pandemic. And it connected, I felt, aspects covered in the previous talks beautifully, creating a springboard for a lively discussion in the Q&A. Finally, our keynote speakers. Wow, I don't know about you, but here at the Garden, we were just buzzing after those talks. Firstly, Professor Suzanne Renner, Honorary Professor of Biology at Washington University of St. Louis, had us open-mouthed in astonishment at the biology of ant plants. Now, I've had the privilege of seeing Suzanne speak on a variety of subjects over the years, and she's just an inspiration without compare. Now, some of you in the chat asked yesterday if we can grow ant plants in our Botanic Gardens collections, and the answer is yes. And to show you, I just want to, now I've been advised that I need to turn off my background briefly, so just bear with me. I just wanted to show you an example of such a plant, which I think is really, really beautiful, that I just nipped into our glass houses. Suzanne was showing us yesterday cross sections through this part, the domatium, with those wonderful intricate galleries in which the ants make their homes. Right, back to my screen. And so then at the end of a bewilderingly thought-provoking day, Professor William or Ned Friedman, director of the Arnold Arboretum at Harvard University, had us open-mouthed in astonishment once again. Our technical team could scarcely keep up with the chat function because it overflowed with messages of glee as people enjoyed Ned's virtual tour around the 16,000 accessions that grow at the Arnold Arboretum. It was just awe-inspiring, Ned, and food for thought about how we in other gardens and arboreta around the world can engage our own audiences with our collections. Now on to today, and I'm delighted to say that we have an equally exciting and fascinating online adventure around the plant world in store for you. We're going to delve into the collections and horticultural breakthroughs of gardens from around the world. Later this evening, we'll move into our final topic of conservation in a session chaired by the world-leading plant conservation authority, Dr. Paul Smith, Secretary General of BGCI. And then to mark the end of this historic symposium, we have something truly special in store. We have a talk from the eminent Professor Sir Peter Crane, President of the Oak Spring Garden Foundation. Now, to start today, it's a great pleasure for me to say that our first keynote speaker is Professor Beverly Glover, Director of Cambridge University Botanic Garden. Now, I have to tell you, a few years ago, Beverly had an audience here in Oxford on the edge of their seats when she explained how flowers tone down the iridescence of their petals to avoid confusing bees using the back of a CD. And people here still talk about this talk now. By violent contrast, when I was asked to give a lecture at Cambridge a year later, I took a durian fruit with me on the train and then risked evacuating Beverly's entire garden from the smell. So my apologies once again for that, Cambridge. Beverly, we're so excited to hear your keynote in just a short while. Before we start, to compensate for this symposium being online rather than in person, we're going to zoom around the grounds of our very own Botanic Garden virtually here in Oxford. We'll see you again at 2:15.